Dobry den. Dobry den. Dobry den. All right, I love to hear that. I'm an American, and I love to hear people yell back at me when I yell, good morning to you, good day. Little bit of background. I have been wanting to see Thomas Batya's office in the elevator for many years. Last night, I had the honor of seeing it and taking some pictures in it. I will never forget it. One of the true entrepreneurial geniuses of the 20th century. And it's an honor for me to be here and to address this group today. I want to thank a couple of people before I get started. Marketa Razimova, the chair of the event, she has been very kind. Where is she? She's not in the room yet, but I want to thank her, and I want to thank the other members of the organization for project management. I especially want to thank the student team. Two wonderful students picked me up yesterday from the bus and escorted me around and showed me where I could find the Thomas Batya office, which was really wonderful. Marketa just walked in. Let's give her a hand and thank her for what she has done. Also, I want to thank my translator. Over the years, I've worked with many translators, and this young lady is wonderful, and I want to thank her very much. Michaela Buktelova. Thank you very much. Let's acknowledge her. Okay, we got that out of the way. Now, I'd like for you all to look at your watches right now.
Pepper, excuse me, maybe we should give some time to your translator to translate what we have said.
No, she's not translating.
She's not?
Can you all understand me?
Well, that's no problem.
All right. I want you to look at your watches, and I want you in 30 minutes to hold your hand up and say stop, because when I talk about leadership, I can talk all afternoon about it. It's something I've spent more than 50 years of my life studying, and the last 30 years working with leaders around the world and boards of directors to help them move to another level of performance. Now, today you have heard, and you will hear over the rest of the day and tomorrow, many ideas about process and procedure, many ideas about different models of managing chaos, many ideas from people who have also studied this topic. Well, what I want to talk to you about is something that goes a little bit deeper than that. It is what will make any model, any process succeed or fail. I don't want to talk about team dynamics today because I don't have enough time. I want to talk about individual leadership. I want to share some science with you. I want to share some of my experience with you. And I want to share some examples with you that I've learned over the years. For those of you that want more information, please come in. Please. For those of you that would like more information, you can go to our website at PragueLeadershipInstitute.com or our YouTube channel the link is on our website. But before we get started, let's talk about what the questions are. Let's look at what it is we want to solve today, or what we want to talk about today. What is this anyway? What is chaos? The lady that spoke before from Čete 24 so wonderfully introduced us to some definitions. I'm going to share one with you. Is today's version of chaos different than it was in the 20th century? Is it the same or is it different? Why is it that some teams seem to be able to handle whatever comes to them, and other teams seem to give up at the first sign of a problem? They crash. What empowers top-performing teams? What do the leaders of these teams have in common? Can this type of leadership be learned? Is it a choice that we make, or do we have to win the genetic lotto? Do we have to be born with the right genes to be a leader? those of you who've studied Greek know what this word is. This is the ancient Greek word for chaos. Now, I want to redefine it for the 21st century. Chaos meant disorder. Chaos means unexpected change. Chaos means all of the things that you didn't want to happen happening at once when you didn't want them to happen. That's the 20th century. But what does the 21st century look like? What is it that's different? Welcome. Now, chaos is business as usual. Chaos is competition coming from nowhere. Chaos is losing track of our supply chain. Whoever thought we would lose track of our supply chain? Horse meat in hamburgers? What do you think that's from? That is from losing control of the supply chain. Things are happening so quickly today. Things will continue to happen at an ever-increasing pace over the rest of this century. So we have got to get comfortable feeling uncomfortable. That's what 21st century is about. Getting comfortable feeling uncomfortable. Now, let's take a look at the problems. Why do people hate their bosses? I mean, if we're going to have a team, why we need people to follow us? They don't treat employees like human beings. They completely unrealistic expectations. They fail to see their own shortcomings. The previous speaker talked about humility. That's what this is all about. It's, do you know? Do you have self-awareness? Do you know that you're human? Do you realize that what you're asking us to do may be impossible for us to do? Let's talk about it. They punish first and ask questions later. Come in, see something wrong, and say, what the hell were you doing with it? What happened? And then you find out somebody else did it. Oh, I'm sorry. They're a bully. Anybody work with a bully at any time? Being small like I am, I addressed bullies all my life when I was in school. They picked on me, and I didn't like it. They're dishonest or inauthentic. In other words, you know either they're lying, you know that they're not telling the truth, you know that they're not being who they really are. Well, all right. While we're on the bad stuff, how can we really go out of our way to lose talent from our teams, okay? To drive them away so that then we won't have a good team? Well, we can threaten their status. What does that mean? It means that we can ridicule them in front of the rest of the team. We can undermine their decisions. Anybody ever have that happen? Create unnecessary uncertainty. I'm going to keep you in the dark. I'm going to be inconsistent with my decisions. How does that make you feel, being part of my team? Remove autonomy. This is micromanagement in 3D. You've got the responsibility for this, and I want you to go out and do a good job. But here's how you're going to do it, and I want you to do it by tomorrow at 3 o'clock. Call me at 2:50, and let's make sure you're on target, okay? But you go ahead and do it your way. Condone or restrict social interaction. Believe it or not, there are team leaders that don't want their teams communicating with each other because they feel that that's going to be a loss of their power, their impact on the team. Nothing could be further from the truth. We've got to allow people to form connections. This is how people work together. This is how they accomplish things. This is how they go beyond the expected. Condoning unfair practices. When you, as a team leader, make decisions that show bias, show favoritism, or are unethical, this is a great message to your team, isn't it? This is, oh, I guess this is the way we're supposed to act. That sounds pretty good. This all came from David Rock's SCARF model, which is a very, very interesting study. Now, Professor Sidney Finkelstein at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth did a very interesting study. He wrote a book about it, and I suggest that you read this book if you have an opportunity. Why Smart Executives Fail. And what he did was, he studied leaders from around the world who had experienced failure in their teams and in their companies. And he wrote a book about his findings. Let me condense it for you into one word. This is a lovely phrase, actually, 2 words. Self-enhancement bias. It's a psychological term that means I really sometimes think I'm smarter than I am. Or I think I know a little bit more than I do. We all, everyone in this room that's an alpha, and I know statistically that 85% of you are alphas. You're smart, you're driven, you want to do things. I call myself a recovering alpha. But one thing we have in common is this problem. Self-enhancement bias. In doctors, we call it the God complex. Yeah, I love your idea, but I know something a little bit better than that. That's a good idea. You come back sometime later after you learn as much as I know. Self-enhancement bias, what does it do? It shuts down information in a leader. People stop talking to you. They don't want to give you information because they know when they speak to you, what are you going to do? Yeah, I've heard it before, or it doesn't work, or we've tried that, okay? Self-enhancement bias, it's a cancer in leadership. This man is the Distinguished Professor of Leadership at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, Robert Sutton. He has spent his career studying crummy leaders. He's written books about why leaders are bad. What has he found out? Consistently leaving others demeaned or de-energized, especially those who have less power. Anybody ever experienced that? In a meeting somewhere, or when you pass somebody in the hall, they make you feel invisible? They make you feel like you're an idiot in a meeting? More focused on their needs and less sensitive to the needs of others. Many years ago, I heard about a young consultant at McKinsey & Company. And I won't tell you what office it was, but I've done a lot of work for McKinsey over the years. And this young consultant was working late one night, and it was his mother's birthday. And his mother loved the opera. He got tickets for his mom to go to the opera. And there was a wonderful opera going on that night. So he was sort of getting ready, getting his desk cleared up. His mother was waiting in the lobby for him. And just as he was getting ready to leave, the managing partner came by and said, hey, where are you going? What are you doing? I said, well, I'm going to take my mom to the opera tonight. It's her birthday. And the managing partner said, oh, that's a shame. He said, what do you mean? Well, and he was holding a stack of papers. And he said, these need to be translated by tomorrow morning, and I want you to do it. And this kid's face fell. He said, what? He said, look, I want you to do it by tomorrow morning. Now, what do you want to do? Do you want to impress the partners? Or do you want to spend time with your mom? It's up to you. So he stayed there. He gave the tickets to his mother. She went alone. What did he find out the next morning? He found out the next morning that the partner already had the report translated. He just wanted to prove to him who the boss was. He wanted to put him in his place. Disinhibition, becoming less inhibited about social norms. This is my favorite one. Gangster movies. You know, you always see the boss of the gang. Generally in a restaurant. They spend a lot of time in restaurants for some reason. I don't understand this. But you usually see a tight shot of the boss, and he's chewing his spaghetti, and you can see everything in his mouth. You know, I mean, it's like he's chewing. He's got spaghetti sauce falling down the side of his face. He doesn't care if you can see him or not, because he's the boss, and I'm a slob, and I don't care. But if you laugh at me, I'm going to shoot you. Now, what does this look like in business? What does this look like in everyday business? It looks like this. I call a meeting for 3 o'clock, and I don't mean 3:30. I want you there at 3 o'clock. I show up at 3:15. I don't say anything. I'm the boss. I don't care. I start doing things that are out of the norm. I get carried away with my authority. And what happens is, pretty soon, you're not even going to want to come at 3:30. Pretty soon, you're going to call in sick. Pretty soon, you are going to find a way to sabotage my leadership. What we know through studies that have been done at MIT with Dr. Stanley McGregor, if you use authority and rank as your only platform of power with a group, you will encourage sabotage. You think it's easy to sabotage a boss? It's real easy. I used to like to tell people, you know, just pretend you're a sergeant in the Army and I'm a general, and I say to you, go get the Jeep and hurry up, or I'm going to bust you down and you'll be washing pots. Be back in 5 minutes. So you come back in 5 minutes and there's no Jeep, and you say, General, the Jeep won't start. I don't know what happened to it. Something's wrong with the Jeep. And you've got the spark plugs in your pocket. That's sabotage, all right? And this happens all the time, because with a boss like that, all we're going to do is give what's called threshold performance. In psychology, threshold performance means nothing more than this. I will do whatever I have to do to keep my job, and that's it. Don't ask me to do anything else. Now, what do we know? We know creativity doesn't take place between 9 and 5. We're too busy answering the phone. We're too busy going to meetings. We're too busy writing reports. When does creativity happen? It happens before or after work. And only if I give you my disposable time. Because if I don't give it to you, I become disengaged. Disengagement is the problem of the 21st century for leaders. Now, what I want to do now is transition to some of the positive things. Peter Drucker is a name that's probably known to most everyone in the audience, one of the giants of leadership thought in the 20th century. This, I think, is a brilliant statement, and it was alluded to in at least 2 of the previous talks this morning, and I'm sure people are going to talk about it later today. The real danger in turbulent times is not the turbulence. It's the failure to adapt somebody's thinking to the new situation. It's like you only have one tool in your toolkit. Everything's a hammer. And then all of a sudden, everything looks like a nail. And when you hit a screw with a nail, not much happens. You ruin the screw and you make the hole bigger. All right? So this is all about finding the other tools in our toolbox. Now, why is that so important? I wrote a column once in my newspaper column titled Darwin on Your Career. And here's what Darwin tells us in The Origin of Species. It's not the strongest of his species, or team or leaders, that survive, nor the most intelligent. It's the ones that are most responsive to change. The teams that respond to change are the teams that will excel. They are the teams that will get the special projects. They are the leaders who will be put in charge of the critical projects and the best teams. Now, David Foster Wallace. Let's put leadership in perspective. Real leaders are people who help us overcome the limitations of our own individual laziness, selfishness, weakness, and fear, and get us to do better, harder things than we could get ourselves to do on our own. Fear. Fear was mentioned earlier. Interesting thing, fear. It's a wonderful topic, especially when we talk about chaos and we talk about change. Fear plays a wonderful role in courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the management of fear. And this is what's important. It is managing that fear, because sometimes a brave person only needs to take one step more, and then they're out of the fear. And it happens when you least expect it, but you have to keep putting one foot in front of the other. Now, we talk about attitudes with leaders, and much is written about the fact that good leaders have a positive attitude. But I think, please, come right in. I think that it's difficult sometimes to understand in context what optimism is, or a positive attitude. And so I like to talk about three classes of attitude in leadership. The first one is the delusional optimist. This is somebody that's always smiling. You never know there's anything wrong. You run in and say, my house burnt down, and they say, they build great houses today. You'll get another one, don't worry. And you think, who the hell is this guy? You know, they're detached from reality. No one believes a delusional optimist. We saw this with a company called Saatchi & Saatchi. Advertising, huge advertising company. They just kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And the leaders, the Saatchi brothers, had even a poem written about how wonderful they were and how they could face any challenge and not even think about it, and so on and so forth. And he marched them right off the cliff. And in 3 months, their stock dropped 90%. Delusional pessimist. This is the person that thinks everything is a conspiracy. I work with idiots. Or, you know, the boss told us to do this. It's not my idea. I don't think it'll work anyway, but okay, but let's try it. What do you think? And you think, why the hell is he here? If he doesn't think anything's real, why is he here with us today? No one wants to follow a delusional optimist or a pessimist. But what does positive attitude look like in the 21st century? Here's what I think it looks like. Positive attitude in the 21st century is being open, being honest with the people who look to you for leadership, and helping them see a pathway forward. For example, this is chaos. And I want you to know that this is going to be really hard to get through. It's going to be difficult. We don't have the resources I would like to have to do this. We don't have the number of people on our team that I know we need to do it in the time that's expected. But I know we can do it. I know we will get this done. Now, we've got to pull together here, and we've got to start talking about what some of the answers are here. Let's focus on what the issues are, and let's focus on some creative thinking here. I'm lowering the stress bar. Okay, we know it's still there, but I'm making it more specific. Non-specific stress is a killer. If I just say, we got to get it done by Monday, and people think, how the hell are we going to do it? You know, what am I going to do? But if I lay things out like that and make it specific, I can bring focus to it. I can bring you out. I can bring us together, and we can talk about it and create a solution. But the answer is not to deny it. The answer is to face it head on. Trust your team, bring them together, and they will trust you. It starts with trusting them. This is a man by the name of Dr. Viktor Frankl, who was the founder of the third principal school of psychoanalytics in Austria. And he survived 3 concentration camps during World War II and developed a very interesting theory. He found that by studying the incoming inmates into the concentration camps, he could quickly tell the ones that would survive the experience, the ones that would, if they got out, be able to live somewhat normal lives, and the ones that wouldn't have a chance. Dr. Viktor Frankl. Here's what he discovered. Here's his theory in one sentence, and I think it is one of the most powerful insights into life. And it's this. There's very little in life that we have control over. In fact, there may be only one thing we have control over, and that is our reaction to what happens. Think about that for a second. We have no control over chaos. We have no control over the things that are happening out there that we have to deal with. What we do have control over is how we react to these things. Think about that. And if I can empower a team to believe that, and we can find solutions on our own, what's going to happen the next time we face chaos or a challenge? Bring it on. We can handle this. We can do this. Viktor Frankl. His book, by the way, is called Man's Search for Meaning, and I would suggest it. Are we close to 30 minutes?
Well, yes, we're over 30 minutes, in fact. But
We are?
over, yeah.
How come you guys didn't hold your hands up? Okay. Average leaders, this is important, then I'm going to stop. Average leaders focus on the results, and that's it. Good leaders focus also on the behaviors that get the results. But get this, great leaders focus on the emotions that drive those actions. And that is what I want to leave you with today. A friend of mine, Chris Graves, who's the chairman of Ogilvy PR, based in New York, did a study. And here's what he found. The important decisions that we make in life are who we marry, where we want to work, who we're going to vote for, whether or not we're going to be engaged in being a team. We make emotionally. But we're smart, right? After we make the decision, then we look for the facts to back it up. But realize that these decisions are made emotionally. Look up the term affect heuristic, and it'll explain it to you. But once you understand how to drive performance, it becomes less of a mystery. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you for standing up after all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pep.